Hello there, and welcome along to Series 4 and Episode 6 of the Gardner Ben Podcast, which is brought to you proudly in association with Peterbilt's Roses, winner of 31 Chelsea Gold medals and creating timeless roses since 1968. Go online and shop at www.peterbillsroses.com. I'm afraid this week you will have to forgive my dulcet and ever so slightly snotty tones. I have spent the weekend, along with my husband Mark, welcoming just as many people to the garden here at North Lodge as humanly possible. The weather was incredibly kind to us, and we had the pleasure in welcoming quite literally hundreds and hundreds of people through the garden in support of our chosen good causes. We had a really lovely time sharing the garden here at North Lodge with everybody, and everybody was incredibly complimentary. The roses put on quite the show, although they've had a terrible, terrible week to put up with. Blisteringly hot temperatures cooked them for about 2 or 3 days solid, and then several huge electrical storms with driving rain came through the evenings after that. So they've had an awful lot to deal with. However, best foot forward, the garden looked absolutely lovely, and many people really enjoyed their visit. It has, however, left me a little bit hoarse and very, very tired. I must admit, I'm a little bit socialed out. But there is no time to stop. I have now completed all of my peony reviews for 2026, and I'm coming to the end of my clematis climbing plant series. These bodies of media are now available for you to watch at any time on Instagram, YouTube, or on TikTok. And as we thunder into the very beginning of June, National Rose Month is here. Now, as you're aware, roses for me have got a little bit out of hand. There are too many roses for me to literally just bring them to you in the month of June. So National Rose Month will roll on for myself through June, July, and hopefully end towards the end of August. I have the pleasure in this year bringing you no fewer than 96 personal growing reviews, followed by around 12 brand new first impressions of varieties that were either launched this time last year, which I couldn't get hold of, or the brand new varieties that launched at the Chelsea Flower Show just a few weeks ago. So I really hope that you're sitting comfortably, and if you are a little bit easily led, that you lock your credit cards away for just now, because you might be tempted to use them on several occasions over the next few weeks. In the garden, it's been incredibly difficult really to know what to do. As I say, temperatures have hit in excess of 33, 34, and up to 35 degrees, which is very unprecedented for May. Many people online saying that their growing region, this quite often is the temperature that they experience on a regular basis. But here on the outskirts of the UK in May, this is very, very difficult for us to deal with. The first flush of roses came through absolutely beautifully, but unfortunately a lot of it was burnt and fried in the hot, hot sun. We're simply unprepared for these kind of extremes. I say we then had a couple of large electrical storms which did give us some much needed rain, as after such a sopping wet winter, it is now like a dust bowl out there, and we are in desperate need of water. Keeping up with everything in the garden has been difficult. Not only has it been incredibly challenging due to the high temperatures, but you don't really know what to do first. Should you deadhead and remove any spent flowers? Should you water? Try and give something a little bit of shade? So it's been difficult really to know what to do. But the hoses have been running pretty much flat out. The watering cans have been going backwards and forwards. And we've just managed to keep everybody hobbling along just in time for that extra little bit of rain that we've had. If the weather turns, as they say it will do, this particular growing season is going to be one of the most challenging I've experienced as a gardener in all of my growing time. So we'll see what the weather brings over the next couple of weeks. The photographer has been out and we have been capturing media for my book, and we have several sessions coming up over the next couple of weeks, cataloguing, documenting, and of course capturing the garden in all of its glory as we hit the peak of this first flush. I've been trying to convey through to Stuart what I really would like the book to feel and look like as far as the photos are concerned. And all I can really say to him is that I want you to be able to feel the heat and the haze and also the fragrance of those dizzy and balmy summer days. Capturing media early in the morning at sunrise when you have that wonderful light coming through the back of the flowers. The feeling of warmth, but also that feeling of fresh and cool. And again, that lovely light just at the end of the day. At this time of year, something in the region of about 8:30 to 9 o'clock. Just as the heat of the day is starting to back off, you have again that wonderful warming and cooling period of time where everything in the garden looks ever so slightly hazy. This is what I would like to jump off of the pages as you flick through the beautiful book that I'm creating for you. So, with that in mind, we're capturing media and taking as many photographs as we can to make sure that this mood really jumps off the page for you as you scroll through the book. This week, the Gardner Ben podcast heads off to different shores, and I have the pleasure in bringing you a conversation with farmer Bailey Plugs. Now, this is an account that I've been following along on Instagram for a few years now and absolutely love the content. Thomas and Bailey joined me for an informal conversation a couple of weeks ago, and I really hope you enjoy the conversation that follows. Well, today on the Gardner Ben podcast, I'm actually joined by the team over at Farmer Bailey Plugs. Bailey and Thomas, welcome along to the podcast. How are you both?
Very well, thank you. Thanks for having us.
It's an absolute pleasure. It's a real pleasure to get to catch both of you. I mean, I've been following your Instagram account for a very long time and absolutely love what you do. But for those that joining on the podcast that don't know what you do, please tell everybody what it is that you share online and what the business actually does.
I'll try to make this succinct. It's always a little bit of a challenge to explain what it is we do. We supply American cut flower growers with their starter plants and mostly plugs, but some bare root perennials, some potted perennials, some woody plants. We're getting into bulbs, so it's becoming kind of a full service shop. We don't actually produce these things ourselves. We contract with about 5 producers in America, as well as some Dutch growers that help us with the import. And we operate through a website. And then we have a retail version of our business called Garden Club Plants, which is simply offering retail size plugs in a format that a home gardener could use.
Okay. And how long have you been doing that for now?
Yeah, we're actually going into our 10th year right now. So I think December 2026 will be 10 years of Farmer Bailey, which is hard to believe.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you. And we were actually farming before that, which is where the Farmer Bailey notion came from. In Vermont, in the very northern part of the States, very cool summers. We specialize in sweet peas, but we are also trying to source more plants for ourselves, for our flower farm, and realized that there was a need for a cut flower specialist to step into this realm. I have a degree in horticulture. I've been gardening since I was 6 years old. So it came naturally to me, and I don't take no for an answer very well. So the supplier told me they couldn't get it. I said, well, why not? And they didn't have an answer, so I went out and found it myself. And it turns out at that time, I knew hundreds of other growers looking for the same types of products, and now I know thousands of other growers looking for the same types of products. So we never meant to start this business, but it led the way. And since
What,
it's all done remotely, we moved to Madeira 3 years ago because Vermont was just a bit too cold for me.
just going to say, we obviously looked at relocating over to America in late 2023, and Vermont was, well, I don't know. The listeners have heard this story before. I was sat watching a program, and you might be familiar with the program Virgin River, and it made me maybe think about moving to the mountains and living by a river. And before Mark knew it, I was on the phone looking at houses in Vermont, and it seemed like a wonderful idea until you actually look at the weather and then realize that, I mean, here today it's 22, 23 degrees. I mean, it is not just balmily warm, it's beautifully warm. I've been out in the garden in just sort of a vest top and working away quite happily, but we were talking sort of minus, I don't know, 35, sometimes minus 40 during the winter. I mean, that's harsh. That's
Yeah,
really very harsh indeed.
not the best for roses.
No. And so how far away from Vermont are you guys? Have you placed yourselves now?
Well, we're now on the beautiful island of Madeira.
Oh,
So
okay.
yes, so just off the coast of Morocco, the tiny little Portuguese island that's the island of eternal spring, the floating gardens. It's the Hawaii of Europe, has many nicknames, and they're all pretty accurate
It's
to it.
a very different climate to what you've been used to in the past.
Yes, but I can say that the night that I met Bailey 15 years ago, 15 plus years ago, I remember him just casually mentioning that, oh, someday I'll have a tropical garden. And I didn't really dwell on it or ask much beyond that. I wasn't even sure what he was talking about, but all that to say, 12, 13 years later, I wasn't at all surprised to find us relocating from Vermont to this semi-tropical island where he now has that.
So, I mean, the market over in the US for your actual product for work is growing at a vast rate of knots, isn't it? I mean, America really has caught the gardening bug. I mean, I'm not saying it's exclusively and only down to the UK market, but many people are following the UK trends as far as gardening is concerned, and the horticulture industry in America has exploded as a result. Are you struggling to keep up with this kind of thing?
It is difficult to forecast the demand for certain products, particularly when we need to tell our suppliers a year or two in advance what we think we can sell. And we find we're always too conservative. We think we're being gambling our whole lives, and then we realize we could have sold 5 times as much.
Yeah.
So, especially the small scale cut flower farm has really taken off in the last 10 years or so. I always say that Americans are bad at having hobbies. We have to monetize everything. It has to be a business if you're going to do it. And really, these people just want to garden, but we have to say it's a farm so that we can justify what we're doing. We're it's the gardeners as well because we think gardening is an equally valuable pursuit as farming. And really, it's the same thing, just a matter of scale. And if you're doing it for money or you're doing it for pleasure.
Yes, I mean, I must admit that's one of the biggest draws that we found ourselves being drawn to moving to America was literally this sheer amount of space. I mean, I'm here in North Lodge. Our garden is just over a third of an acre. By UK standards, that's a really quite large plot. I mean, it's I've been landscaping an area over the winter that is the size of most people's domestic gardens here in the UK, and our plot is probably 10 times that size. But over in America, I mean, we're talking most plots of an acre to start off with. We were looking at plots at over 4 to 6 acres, and you think almost all of a sudden that I've got to times up the scale of everything, and I can all of a sudden I can't. I could not just grow 15 of something, but I could grow 115 of something without touching the size. Yeah, it's a little bit of sort of eyes bigger than your belly a lot of the time, but when you've got the space, it just keeps on multiplying, doesn't it?
Yeah, we had 50 acres in Vermont, and we've squeezed our lives onto a bit over 1 acre in Madeira, but that's still more than we can keep up with.
Well, of course, things are going to be growing almost all year round for you as well. You're going to
Yes.
really, it's going to be a completely different kettle of fish. So moving back to the actual business, how are you sort of forecasting and working out what is going to be the next thing? I mean, because obviously the internet moves trends at a vast rate of knots, doesn't it? I mean, someone will post something in one part of the world, and before you know it, it's spread everywhere like wildfire, and everybody wants that caramel coloured X, Y, and Z. So, how are you keeping your finger on the pulse of what's going to be coming up next and what's going to be interesting?
It's interesting as Instagram, we all know Florette Flower Farm, and Erin's a friend of mine, and she was kind of the first one into this space. And whatever she said is what everyone did. And then it created this echo chamber that lasted for 5 or 7 years. I mean, people only wanted the Cafe au lait dahlia, the blush and bashful, neutral. These color schemes just stayed around forever. I worked as a floral designer before all of this, and we would have 3 or 4 hot color combinations every year, but they would change every year. So it'd be, yellow and silver this year, and you know, hot pink, orange, and green the next year. But it would change year after year. And then I found that the trends were not changing; they were just staying in the same place. So it's actually become a bit more predictable in some ways.
Hmm.
Um, you can see like, oh, I saw a couple people posting burgundy flowers, so maybe we're branching out from just neutrals. It's really exciting to see people using yellow for the first time in about a decade. And I think we're almost to a full color acceptance period. I'm waiting for red. I'm really excited for the red phase.
I was just going to say because yellow seems to be one of those ones that really does divide people. I mean, it's people almost recoil from it. It's very strange here in the UK as well. I mean, especially
I,
if it's a very strong primary yellow, a buttery sort of buttercream color, they're more welcoming towards. But a strong primary, I mean, I'll equate it to a rose. I mean, if you say absolutely fabulous or Julia Childs, that really powerful yellow will normally pull most people back and away from it.
I've made hating yellow a part of my personality for most of my life. And even I am planting yellow flowers in the garden. So I think its time has come, or my eyes have been opened. Um,
And
Yeah, there's
you were saying there as well. You start struggle with reds, or
I'm ready for red. I had a red aversion for a while. I'm ready for there to be a big bold red revolution.
you're embracing your Mediterranean dream now, aren't you? It's,
Absolutely.
that hot color palette's coming through.
Yeah, in terms of, specific products, I'm in the Netherlands for trade shows. I go to Chelsea. I try to keep my eye on what's happening out there. But then we also listen to our customers and we ask them a lot, and they send us things that they're seeing online. Um, so we really have a nice relationship, a nice back and forth. We try to support them with a lot of cultural information, and we have a quite a robust staff that are just there to assist the success of our customers and to listen to them and try to hunt down whatever that new frilly pansy is that they've seen on the internet, or I mean, you name it. We get all kinds of requests. There's reasons why we can't get our hands on them, and others it's just because no one has done the legwork to go find it.
And what are your current best sellers? What makes up the bread and butter of what it is that you're supplying?
It's mostly Lysianthus. Lysianthus is it's what started the business. They're notoriously slow and difficult to start from seed.
Just going to say, I've always really struggled. I might have cracked ranunculus this year. I know for someone who's been gardening for a very long time, I've given them several goes, and all of a sudden I have a patch of them in the greenhouse. Which, I mean, they've been bloody slow. I'll be honest with you, they've been really slow. But I've got buds. They're nearly there.
Congratulations. Yeah, they have a certain everything has its certain needs, and they don't always reveal it easily.
No.
Um, yeah, after Lysianthus, it's hard to say. We probably have about 1,500 line items, maybe more than that in the catalog right now.
Yeah, coming to the top of my mind would be poppies, scabiosa, um, stock, snapdragon, delphinium
Yeah.
are all towards the top of the list, I'd say. Mhm.
Yeah, if you can cut it, we probably sell it, or we've tried to.
And anything unusual that's coming through for sort of 2026 and 2027 that you haven't really seen? Because again, the internet is one of those places that all of a sudden people have decided that the likes of status is now sort of trendy once again, which fell out of favor decades ago. I was talking to representation from the National Chrysanthemum Society here in the UK a couple of months ago, and the chrysanthemum, not that it ever really went out of fashion as a cut flower, but is massively back in vogue here in the UK and is making a huge comeback.
We've seen that in America as well. We supply some heirloom chrysanthemums through Three Porch Farm in Georgia. It's one of their main specialties. So they ship out rooted cuttings in the springtime. Um, oh, one of our newest products is a campanula,
Mm.
campanula medium, the true biennial type, the cups and saucers.
Hmm.
But in these shades of green and lavender and Dutch breeder Fiona. I'm forgetting Fiona's name. We connected online. We actually got to go visit her last spring and make some selections in her trial house. But Stadsland,
Mhm,
I
mhm.
believe, is her company. I'm one of the few women breeders that you'll run into in the Netherlands, which is always exciting. And just really long lasting, really beautiful campanulas. These are true biennial types, so they do need a cold period, and that's can be a little confusing. Most of our customers grow the annualized versions of them, but
Hmm.
now that they're learning their needs, they are succeeding. And I think I saw Fiona just started her harvest even today or yesterday. So hopefully our customers in America will start showing their success soon. Yeah, they
That
have a
must be that must be one of the largest challenges that the business faces. Obviously, America spans dozens and dozens, well, not dozens, but multiple different growing zones. And I know as far as roses are concerned, obviously that's what I'm known for. I'm aware of roses being grown in at least four different geographical locations by most growers to guarantee that the stock is hardy and accustomed to where the customers may or may not be buying it. I suppose it must make your season incredibly challenging. I mean, the plug plant is small. It's going to grow away quite quickly, and you need to get it out to where it needs to be as quickly as possible to be grown on at the right stage. Because obviously, if you slow them up and you don't meet that next step, they don't do very well. They need to be moved on. So how are you managing to juggle that? I mean, are you releasing in batches for different growing zones at different times?
Yeah, I can speak to that from the logistical side, where Bailey is the plant expert. I'm thinking about the other things, and as we've grown, the just logistics of managing our website have been an incredible learning curve, and we're fortunate to have some very skilled developers and website people on our team who can help us with this, having many customers all over the US and all 50 states who all want different crops at different times for different growing conditions. And early on, we thought it was really important that we try to take as much of the guesswork out of the ordering process as possible by requiring customers, for example, to enter either the state in which they live or the region in which they live, and then only be shown certain products to buy based on that information. But
Mhm.
a lot of customers who might have their product shipped to their address one place and then drive it to their farm in another place, or perhaps they have a heated tunnel where many others in their region don't. So we basically have most products available throughout the year, and it's up to our customers to educate themselves using all of the resources on our website to
Yeah.
determine the best time to order for their particular region.
Okay, because again, it's something I've noticed. Obviously, we looked at dozens of properties, and I've been lucky enough to cover most of the United States. I've looked at quite a lot of it, but seeing a greenhouse in the States is really quite unusual. I mean, they're two a penny here. Pretty much every keen gardener has a greenhouse or inside grow space of some description to sort of draw out the growing season. But I suppose, I mean, you're dealing with that people that are growing as for mainly for cut flowers for retail, whether it's for themselves or for small scale production. So the use of a polytunnel, for instance, or a greenhouse is going to be much more common. But I was quite surprised by just how few greenhouses I did see in all areas, especially as I say traveling through the New England states, especially where that growing season is very short. You think actually most people would have an area undercover to sort of eke out the beginning and the end of the season a little bit, but something that's obviously just catching on over there.
It would be useful. I think the winter lows can be so extreme, even in places that get very hot in the summertime. So whereas in the UK, yes, you get a bit of frost and you get a little snow on occasion, but by and large, you are right at freezing or a little bit above most of winter. So you're not trying to add that many degrees to keep that greenhouse going. So
Hmm.
a little harder to control in a, well, it depends on where you are. Take zone seven. We'll have people call us and say, I'm in zone seven. When should I plant? Well, are you in zone seven, Alaska, or zone seven, Rhode Island, or zone seven, Oklahoma, or zone seven? They can happen all over the place. It's really just about your winter low temperature. It tells you nothing about your day length. It tells you nothing about your summer heat. So it's hardiness zones are really only effective when you're talking about the hardiness of a plant down to a certain temperature in the winter and what you've observed in the past in your location. Of course, that's all changing year by year. We don't, everyone's zone has jumped up at least a half zone, if not one or two zones in recent years. So it can be really quite difficult to give accurate advice. But we lay it all on the table. We look at the world through what does the plant want? This is what the plant needs. This is how the plant has evolved. These are its limits in terms of temperature and day length. And then you have to figure out how that fits into your life and your climate.
But you should be
Yeah.
careful, though. Bailey can speak for at least an hour on hardiness zones alone, so don't get him started. He's very passionate about
Well,
that.
also we don't know a lot of these products, might be coming out of Israel or they've been bred for production in Kenya or Colombia or Ecuador on the equator, and they haven't been tested for hardiness. Yeah, they are hardy perennials, Veronica or phlox, but we haven't tried these particular varieties in every climate in America. So we get a lot of people who are upset with us. They feel like we are withholding information. Like, no, actually, we are bringing you the stuff so early in its life. You were the first people to try it. It might not live for you, but we think it's going to live, but
Yeah.
we can't guarantee that this particular cultivar is the hardiest or the least hardy of all of them.
I suppose that's one of the prices that you pay for when the customer demands things so quickly when it's working, for instance, on a trend that actually, I mean, the horticultural industry does. It's notorious for moving incredibly slowly. I mean, field trials take a long time, zone trials take even longer. So when the customer is demanding something that they've seen, for instance, you mentioned, I mean, they are on trend here at the moment. Lovely, lovely, sort of very frilly pansies in beautiful, sort of sugary purples and violet blues. Again, I'm aware that, and so I've been told that some of these coming up to sort of 12 to 15 inches in height, they have become a cut flower. But the likes of those, I mean, they're unusual to have gone through a field trial. So when the customer is almost demanding or requesting these things a lot quicker than we ever thought was possible, I suppose it does leave those sort of windows open, doesn't it? That, is it going to grow? Is it going to survive the light, the heat, the drought, the whatever it or the extremes gets thrown at us? And I know we're getting, I don't know what you guys are experienced, but the extremes come at us quick and fast these days. I mean, it's we've had a terribly mild winter, very, very wet, and an incredibly dry spring now. And it's, I say, it's already 22, 23 degrees, which is unheard of. But it does make those things really difficult.
And we are in Madeira, which is probably zoned 11 or 12 based on our winter low. Winter low at our property is maybe 7, but I think we're only 17 today. So we're a lot further south than you. We're technically a subtropical island, but we're not as warm as the UK is right now.
I think, Ben, to your previous point, we from Bailey have introduced a great many varieties to the U.S. market. We haven't counted, but I'd be curious to know how many varieties. We've been at trade fairs in the Netherlands or Germany, and Bailey sees something and says, "I want that. I could sell that. Let's make that happen." So we connect the dots and then bring it to the States. And we
Yeah.
try to build off of that excitement and share with our customers rather than, oh, I don't know, this is risky. Hopefully it works for you. Try to say, hey, you are some of the first growers ever in the States to have your hands on this product. Let us know how it works for you. And we will often send out surveys to our customers who've tried a new product at the end of the season and get their feedback. And for the most part, people are really excited to be a part of that process with us. And then we use that information to update the growing guide to build on the next season. So far, we've been pretty fortunate in that regard.
Yeah, the scoop scabiosa come to mind. These large, or scabious, I suppose, in the UK.
Hmm.
Very large flowered, really quite different than the seed grown strains. Much easier to harvest. Well, I think maybe our second or third year of business, someone asked, because they were seeing them at their wholesaler, probably coming in from Colombia or Ecuador. Like, well, I grow scabiosa. Why can't I have this? I'm like, well, I don't know why, but let's find out. And the reason was no one had asked. They're from the Danziger company. Danziger provides bedding plants to the US in by the millions. So all we had to do was say, hey, we would like to try these too. And they've been great partners. They said, sure, we'd love to send some to you. Now they're one of our most popular items. They were just sitting there on the table, but the other suppliers just did not realize that there was any interest for these at all. And now they're really supporting the small local cut flower grower in a really nice way.
Because I say it's the new and unusual that's really going to be setting those small growers away from the large commercial growers, isn't it? I mean, if you're going to part with traditionally a larger amount of money for a smaller, locally farmed bouquet of flowers, it's got to be different. It's got to be eye-catching, and it's got to have something unusual in it to sort of draw your attention. Otherwise, it's just an overpriced sort of run-of-the-mill bouquet, isn't it? At the end of the day.
When we speak with our international suppliers, they have a hard time understanding what the American grower is up to, because most of our customers, they'll have 100 different crops going at any time. They don't actually want a steady harvest of Gerbera daisy all year long. They want something different that maybe changes every 10 days, 2 weeks, because they're mostly selling into the local markets. They're selling at a farmer's market. They're selling at a farm stand. And people don't want the same thing, the same color, the same variety week after week after week. Now, whereas look at the Dutch model and you'll have 20 hectares of red roses of the same variety, and that's what they know, and they can hit their targets and produce the number of stems. We're the complete opposite side of that coin, but some of the varieties are the same. We only have what we call Voyage Lysianthus because Sakata in Japan produces it for the cut flower market, and they're growing one facility alone will be producing 60 million stems in the Netherlands. These varieties are only available because of that volume, but we benefit from it. And actually, our quality tends to be much better when they're grown outside or grown under brighter light or in a longer season. So there's different ways to use the same products. Yeah, we're all part of the same multi-billion dollar industry. It's just finding your individual niche that's the challenge.
And Thomas, so you mentioned that Bailey had or had that has a horticultural degree and is obviously well versed in the horticulture industry. But if you wouldn't mind, what what was your background before the two of you came together?
Yeah, sure. I'm a food person. We met Bailey and I when I was finishing up culinary school and beginning a career in pastry. And so with the pastry mind, I'm very much a detail person. I love logistics and planning. On the flip side, though, I also have that creative side. I often describe um, uh, my draw to pastry being well exemplified through a wedding cake, where it's very scientific and exact, where you're doing the baking and the preparation of the base. Then once that's done, you can sort of flip to the other side of the brain and make flowers out of sugar and decorate them with edible glitter, and it's wholly satisfying. So that's how my brain functions and what I brought to the table. And on our farm in Vermont, in addition to the cut flowers and some livestock, we also had a bakery where I was producing for farmers markets and wedding cakes, and we hosted on-farm events. And then when we started Farmer Bailey together back in 2016, I just helped build the website and talk through logistics, and we kind of figured it out together on our kitchen table. And after that, it was sort of secondary. I was busy with the bakery and just managing the farm in other ways. But then when the pandemic came, it forced us to completely reevaluate all of our businesses and restructure everything. And for the longest time, we had been saying, if we were really smart, we would stop all these other projects, our on-farm events, the bakery, the cut flowers, the livestock, and we would just focus on Farmer Bailey. But we just
Hmm.
have too many interests, and we just can't sit still. But then we were forced to sit still, and we were both just focused on the business, and everything fell into place. And so within just a few years, we transitioned from really just Bailey to now we're a team of 10 plus some additional help coming in sometimes. And so with, as I said, with that sort of logistical detailed mind, while Bailey focuses on all things plant related and is such a plant genius, I find great joy in keeping everything else running smoothly. Just our website, our team, the money, the business side, and so we complete, I think, Farmer Bailey pretty well.
I'm just going to say your dynamic sounds very similar to the one that operates in my household. Mark, as you saw a second ago, assists me with all of the bits that as a gardener I find really frustrating, that technology, sound, uh, you'll quite often find him following me with a clipboard and sort of directing bits and pieces. And yeah, we kind of wrap it up that it leaves me to be creatively free, and I get to, I suppose, just create as I want to create. But I shouldn't really say because it could get him in trouble. But Mark's ideal job would actually to be assisting me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. He would love to be, and I think I can build my own personal brand to that particular point. You guys probably don't know, but I am actually working on my first book, and it wouldn't be possible whatsoever without Mark working behind the scenes, because I am writing and I am having it photographed and staging it, but Mark will be doing all of the stuff behind the scenes that I will literally just freeze over and just have absolutely no interest in whatsoever. So by the sounds of it, your dynamic works very nicely indeed.
Yeah, I can relate. People have asked me like, when are you writing a book? And there's nothing that sounds more horrifying to me than that. I couldn't, wouldn't even know where to begin.
It's
That's,
terrifying.
yeah, I can tell you what should be in the book, but don't ask me to put it together.
Well, I don't. I actually took myself out of full-time employment last July, and yeah, the aim was to do something that I would never. I mean, as someone who is very neurospicy, very heavily dyslexic, I never in a million years thought that I would be capable of. Well, I didn't have the physical skills until they created like the computer that's in front of me, and I can actually dictate everything that comes out of my head. Um, and it's amazing. It's really good. I'm finding it very tiring, but and very challenging. But it's a nice process. It's something that I'm really enjoying. So yeah, it's they say everybody's got at least one book in them, but whether that's true or not, I don't know. But
I can see it. Yeah. regarding our
Whether that book is any good is another matter, but
sure, well,
No, it would be good.
it would be. Yeah, we've learned over the years that we're both always thinking and dreaming. Bailey might dream a little bit bigger than me. I tend to stay a little bit closer to reality, and so it's great when we can meet in the middle. And we found that when we are on the same page and feel equally passionate about whatever it might be, whether that's leaving our lives in the city to start a farm, or selling that farm to move to this little island, or any of the other big leaps we've taken together, when we're doing it together and side by side, it tends to go well. And so I agree that if Bailey decides to do the book, he'll have that big dream, and I'll be right there beside him, or maybe behind him just a few steps to make sure things fall into place.
well, it sounds like this dynamic works really, really, very nicely indeed. And again, it does sound awful familiar because I've always dreamed very big, and then Mark will look at me with pure shock, and he'll often go off for 10, 15 minutes, and he'll come back and say, "Have you thought about the finer details of that?" It's like, no, no, I haven't done the little bits. I haven't done yet, but I know where we're going to go. You sort out the little bits, and we'll end up there. So
That sounds familiar.
Very familiar. Yeah.
But I will say too, the business wouldn't be able to run with just the two of us at this point. We couldn't do it without our whole team. We've been so fortunate over these years to have been able to build just a fantastic Farmer Bailey team, especially our customer service team. We really
Mhm.
pride ourselves in our customer service, and I think that's a big part of the company's success is responding to every message, every email, whether you're a customer or not. And as we've grown, we have received more and more emails every day from folks asking for growing advice. I'm in to Bailey's point, I'm growing in zone 6. When should I plant my Lysianthus to be ready for my daughter's wedding in September?
Yeah.
And we answer every single one of those, but it got to the point where it did not make sense for Bailey to be answering every single one of those cultural related questions. Uh,
Yes.
so it's felt great to have been able to add more very knowledgeable folks to the team who can bear some of that burden with us.
And Bailey, have you found that change in the business difficult? Because again, we're talking about I have an online brand. I'm servicing 120,000 subscribers, and I take a huge amount of pride and a lot of personal involvement in responding to all of those comments and those emails and everything that comes in. But letting that go is really, really hard. Have you struggled with relinquishing the control as the business has grown?
There hasn't really been a struggle because our team is so good. We have well, Felicia's behind all of our social media, and she just takes the correct tone always. And if there's she doesn't come from a horticultural background, but she's learned so much that she can answer most things. Or she'll ask me, or she'll ask Bobby, our horticulturist. Allie, the head of our customer service department, worked on our farm in Vermont, and so she's grown all of these things herself as well. Actually, our other the rest of our customer service team have flower farming background, so I trust the people who support us. And yeah, I'll hop in the inbox sometime and see what people are saying. And generally, I'm just very impressed with the quality of information and the patience that they have that perhaps I don't.
One of our favorite things is when we learn about big things that happened in the business that we weren't a part of. It's still relatively new, but just maybe 2 years ago, we brought on a director of operations, Claire, and she, in conjunction with our director of finance and accounting and so much more, Charles, there's so much that goes on behind the scenes that they just don't want to burden us with until it's done. And so, for example, when we're importing Dutch bare root material into the US, or peony roots in the fall, there's so much that goes into all that importation, just the logistics and the customs and transporting from the port to the fulfillment center, that we're not a part of any of that anymore. And we simply get updated when it is successful, and that feels really, really good. And
Yeah.
of course, we're always available and we're involved, but they only burden us with that stuff when we really need to know, which feels pretty good.
So all in all, great move. I recommend having a lot of staff. They're wonderful. The only time I had a little identity crisis was when we stopped farming, because I think Farmer Bailey was my first Instagram account, and before it became a business name, because I needed to declare that I was a farmer.
Yeah.
I was working as a floral designer and an opera singer. I actually studied opera, and Thomas studied tuba. We both had professional music aspirations and performed a fair bit along the way. Um, but when we decided during COVID that we were done farming, I had a really hard time with that, even though I knew that I would still be in flowers, I would still be talking to people and surrounded by people who were enthusiastic about what I was. The fact that we were not personally doing it, I was just a gardener, that just sounded awful. I got over it, and really now I'm embracing gardening and becoming a little bit of a gardening evangelist, trying to get people to, don't ruin a perfectly good hobby by trying to monetize it. If you're happy with
Big
just growing a few rows of cut flowers in your garden and enjoying them and giving them away, then do that. That's so much easier and so much more rewarding than trying to manage a staff and manage weather and manage climate change. It's
just gonna say I've been guilty of doing that once or twice in my existence, trying to monetize something that you did enjoy and then rapidly turning it into something that's very unenjoyable.
Mhm, mhm.
Way to kill a hobby.
Yeah, absolutely. At that time, we were producing, I think we grew about 15,000 sweet pea plants per season, and we were shipping all of them to the New York City flower market. And on paper, we had probably a $250,000 season lined up in front of us. And then this virus came about, and then by the time the sweet peas were giving us flowers, everything is shut down. There were no weddings, and 100% of these were being used in weddings. So we went
Mhm.
from what should have been a $250,000 season to a $0 season. And I think that's when I felt the freedom to let go of the farming notion and maybe move to a tiny little subtropical island and focus on the plugs.
So, could you give anybody who's maybe just starting out in growing and wants to, whether either want to create a small cutting patch just to provide some flowers for their own home, or maybe I get asked an awful lot. I would like to grow flowers for an upcoming wedding or a particular christening or an event that's coming in ours. What advice could you give people that are just starting out, starting to grow a few plants? And I say maybe they're going to order their first couple of hundred plugs from you guys this year. What advice could you give them moving forward?
You will fail. If you are trying to hit a certain date, just give up now because you will not succeed.
No.
It's very difficult to, even for professional growers with heating and lighting and automation, to reliably hit these targets because they are moving targets based on actual climatic events. And if you're just planting in your own garden, you don't have control over the upcoming drought or the upcoming monsoon season or the upcoming cold spell, heat wave, late frost. So keep trying, but don't start on the year of your daughter's wedding thinking that you are going to have this lush harvest enough to do the wedding for free. You're going to end up last minute scrambling and spending much more money. Um, yeah, I'm always a little too harsh with people who are asking for that kind of advice because it's so difficult. I couldn't personally, as a horticulturist and someone who's been gardening for almost 45 years now, I can't hit certain targets. Today, there's a big flower festival in Madeira. It's the 71st year. I sent off 27 entries, plants and cut flowers and just stuff that I clipped around the garden. Well, this was the year that I was going to bring tulips to Madeira because we're too warm here for tulips. So I had 20 some pots, perfectly forced tulips, all at the right stage. I was gonna just change the face of the flower festival this year. Well, my cooler malfunctioned when we were away, actually in the Netherlands, looking at tulips, and it froze, and every single one of them died. So I had all of my eggs in that basket, and I failed even as a degreed horticulturist and someone who's been doing this a long time. It just take one little thing to change your plans.
It's funny because I quite often come up against quite a lot of criticism about my. Apparently, I'm a little bit blunt when it comes to this kind of thing as well, because people will ask the opinion and they get the opinion and they sort of then recoil and say, "Oh, that was a bit sharp." It's like, well, you asked for the opinion. Would you, if you wanted me to sugarcoat it, you could have asked me to give you a sugar-coated opinion. But if it doesn't gonna, if it's not, if I can't see it working or being able to work, the answer will be no, don't bother, try something different. And people get really quite offended by that. So
They
yeah,
want the easy answer. They want you to tell them they can do it, and perhaps they can. And I want them to try to do it, but I can't promise that they will succeed. So I like to manage expectations, but also encourage them to try. And maybe it's you want it in August and it flowers in July, or maybe it flowers in October, or maybe you have the flowers on that day and you were right after all. We're happy to give general advice, like here's approximately when you might want to, but
yeah.
don't count on it working. Um, yeah, I don't new growers just putting in a small patch. Keep it small, keep it manageable. Understand your space. Don't over order. You can't fit 300 feet of flowers in a 20-foot row. I'm always guilty of overbuying with no particular plan for where the plant is going to go.
I can attest to that. Yes.
He sees the receipts. But yeah, just start with a 10 or 20-foot row that you can manage. You could weed that in 10 minutes and you could do that weekly. And then once you've had a small success, add or subtract based on that success.
Hmm.
I think when we started, we should have just been gardening, but we decided it had to be a farm and we immediately expanded on too much land and just trying to keep up with the weeds and understand the soil fertility on different parts of your property. And it can be too much sometimes. So just take a breath, take it slow, count your successes and keep notes. Like,
Mhm.
was your weather super crazy in one way or the other this year? Was what worked, what didn't? There's a reason that things die or that they succeed. And there can be really major differences season to season. So understanding why you've succeeded is quite important.
I often suggest to people that when they ask me what they should grow, I said always grow something that makes your heart sing. If you step out into the garden and snapdragons make your face light up and they are what brings you joy, well, you grow as many snapdragons as it takes to put a smile on your face. And again, going back to your point there as well, Bailey, I also suggest people take notes and they use their phones as taking notes, even if they don't get chance to actually physically jot something down in a book or make a physical written note. I go back through the pictures on my phone and I look at the way the weather was for the last 3 or 4 years. Because, again, if I was out in the garden taking lots of pictures of particular plants in flower, you can guarantee the weather was at a certain stage. And over that, for instance, we're gearing ourselves up to open our garden to the public again, we do it every other year. Choosing the week is always really difficult, but the only thing I can really do is have a look at the last 5, 6 years and I have a look at what the weather was doing, how the garden looked at a particular window, have a look at what it is now, and you go, okay, well, there looks about good. Whether it works or not. So I always suggest people do. They take notes, and even if they can't take notes physically, they take physical, photographic notes on their phone, and they grow what makes them happy and what they think they have a use for. Because there's no point in growing loads and loads of tulips if you don't like having tulips in the house, for instance. I mean, personally, I love tulips, but there's no point if you growing hundreds of something if you only want to bring, say, a couple of vases into the house. And then I do see loads of people who have said, oh, I've got a cut flower bed and they've got 500 tulips in it and they're all in flower in the garden. It's like, well, that's a tulip bed, that's not a cut flower bed, because if it was a cut flower bed I would be looking at a bed of stumps. Everything would be in the house, not still in the garden flowering away quite nicely.
Of course, it'd be different if they had a little stand at the end of their drive where they could sell those extra tulips that they weren't bringing into the house. But then, yeah, that's a different conversation.
Yeah, most cut flower farms are really quite ugly if they're being run well because all the flowers have been picked and
Mhm.
shipped off to market. Uh,
Yep.
yeah, as I mentioned, there's the notion that the American cut flower grower must produce 100 different varieties at once is purely false. If you look at the Netherlands, they're producing one variety for generations, or one, maybe a rose grower, maybe it is a red rose grower. Maybe that family has been known for red roses for multiple generations. So to be a flower farmer, you really only must grow one type of flower. So I always tell my people, don't try 45 things this year. Try five and see which work. Hopefully you enjoy some of them. Maybe you have always wanted to grow sweet peas and that's your thing. Don't grow something you don't want to look at. Or these cutting petunias from Italy, which are really quite impressive. They get almost 3 feet tall, but they're still petunias, and you have to touch them, and you get covered in sticky petunia stuff. So I knew that, and they actually last quite well. But I'm not going to touch those. Had employees that I would ask to do it, but I knew personally, like this doesn't have a big future with me because I don't want to touch it. So if there's
No,
something repulsive, stay away from it. Hopefully there is something nostalgic or that makes your heart sing a bit. That's a good motivator to keep it weeded and keep it watered and enjoy it.
Well, I know we also like to encourage folks to take ownership of their education if they're just starting out. Bailey likes to
Mm.
remind people that gardening is not new. And we see a lot of people who are just starting out, either asking questions on social media or sending us an email, a question they could very easily answer on their own, but there's such a temptation to ask someone else for that secret, that shortcut. But there are a lot of books out there, a lot of fantastic YouTube videos and podcasts that are just full of information that if people would just take the time to educate themselves, I think they would learn quite a bit on their own.
Yeah,
there's
Ben,
also there's also an awful lot of awful puns as well.
Yes, that's true.
I would say we talk back to the phone. I take so many photos that I use for reference all the time. I know I'm not going to keep a detailed journal that I can't even read my own writing. So, but the phone, I will remember that I took a photo of that variety and maybe know about when it was blooming, and that really does inform what I do year to year. But say Ben, you can see us, we're on Zoom right now. But yeah, behind me, there's all kinds of books dating back
Discuss that, yeah.
to 1800s. The information hasn't really changed. Plants were doing the same things then that they do now. Our methods might be different. We might not be heating with coal or, you know, forcing things wildly out of season because it would just cost an arm and a leg now. But what the plant wants is the same. The plants have not changed. So you can pick up an old book. There's generally some very good, very detailed, straight to the point information. Um, so many books starting in the mid 90s, I think, stopped being informative and started being pretty. It was more about selling copies and making them appeal to a wide audience, which is great. I understand the need to do that, but it came at the expense of detailed information. So I'm never concise. I never give the easy answer, much to the chagrin of our staff and our customers, who I'm sure don't read everything that we put out there. But it's really important. There's a lot of details. I've been gardening since I was 6. I have a degree in horticulture. I've been thinking about this that entire time. And it's wonderful if you just left your corporate job yesterday and today you're a flower farmer, but you've got a lot of catching up to do. And we're going to
Yeah.
help you do it. Part of why our website, you can see all of our growing guides to everything. That's for anyone around the world. That's not just for paying customers. It's not behind a paywall. We never put information behind a paywall because people need to know this stuff. It used to be quite commonplace, and keen gardeners, skilled flower farmers are not. There's not as many of us as there used to be. So I really like to support what people are doing around the world with information.
Yeah, it's exactly the reason why I started my account as well. And again, my listeners have heard this time and time again, but I got to the point where, as a horticulturist with a degree, working in a very, very high end market. I mean, I was working exclusively on properties in excess of £5 to £7 million a piece. You think, oh, this was wonderful. I've got the expression and the budget to do pretty much whatever you would want to do. But I found my customers didn't really care. It was all very, we want it to look nice. I don't really want to know the craft. I don't really want to know how anything behind the scenes or what you have to do to get it to look like that. And oh, I've now changed my mind. Can we take everything out and can we replace it? And I got to the point where I thought, I just don't seem to be able to deal with this anymore. So there is a craft and there is something that goes on behind the scenes to get this. So I started sharing it online, and people say, "Oh goodness me, Ben, when you're, for instance, when I'm streaming a best of collection and I'll be in front of the camera for an hour, that's me talking for an hour unedited. That will be me literally with a rose, or this is such and such, and it gets this big, and it smells of licorice, or this one." I just can't help it. People say, they say, well, where's the information in the video? So, well, I'm really sorry. It's kind of everywhere. It will come out of me in spits and spaces, peppered everywhere. YouTube will tell you that's the start of the video and clip out the first 15 minutes, but you've missed all the really, really good nuggets in front of it. And I really enjoy working like that. So yeah, for me, it's one of the nice things about sharing things online. I always say to people that if you're just starting out, I can give you a framework of what works for me, what I've done over the last 35 years. This works for me as a framework. But I tell you what, you pick and choose the bits that work for you. And if it doesn't work for you, next year tweak it a little bit. Have a go at making two sewings of something rather than one to get your date exactly right. Or hold one back, maybe put bed one out, let it slow down. If you haven't hardened it off properly, then put another one out. You'll quite often find your second sewing is faster than your first one if you haven't got the temperatures right. So I'm always saying to people, just give it a go, play around with it. And if it doesn't work, come back to the framework I put in place, and then you can play with it again. A little bit like baking, Tom, it's my other half, Mark, will get a recipe down and then he'll start playing with it and it'll go horribly wrong. It's like, that's because you've overstepped the mark. You've got to go back to the recipe before you can tweak too many bits and pieces first.
Oh, absolutely. It's very similar, my relationship with food to yours with gardening in that sense of working on these big, fancy estates with a budget for these clients who weren't that interested in your art and what you were doing. And I think for me, with food, creating a dinner or a cake for clients who were paying a lot, who weren't that interested, isn't nearly as fulfilling as having friends over for a beautiful dinner party. They're not paying anything, but it
Yeah.
just fills my heart and my creativity. And so I understand exactly what you're
Yeah. It left me dying inside all the time. And again, we bought a house a certain distance away from work, and people would say, "Oh goodness me, that's quite a long way." It's not a long way. It's 35 minutes in the car. It's not a long way away at all. But it's like I used to think to myself, "No, I really need to put a sort of an airlock between this craziness and at home." And I said, "What's your garden like?" And I said, "Well, my garden's an explosion of my mind." And they say, "What's that supposed to be?" I said, "Well, everything I do commercially has to be quite restrained. Everybody likes it to be simple, gravel, easy, or low maintenance, which to me just makes me die inside. My garden here is, oh, it's all over the place." And people say, "What's your color scheme?" Don't have one. Take the labels off of it and chuck it in. Next year, if I don't like it next to something, well, I might move it, or I might put something in between it. But to me, I don't work in color schemes. I don't think, oh, I like something that's cool and it's just going to be pale blues and whites. To me, it's all packed in, and it's as mad as it is up here. If everybody thinks the garden is a bit on the loopy side, well, you should try being up here because it comes out of me in a vast rate or not. So yeah, it's that's just the way I work. But
Yeah, same. I get new growers asking, or they're just terrified of killing a plant. It's like, well, if I could tell you my death count, I would. I mean, I kill far more plants than I have alive. If I'm not killing something almost daily, then I'm not living on the edge. Um, but I'll start asking what has worked? What have you tried? What are you where are you succeeding? And then try to draw some parallels. Stock and snapdragons and dianthus, and there's many of these things that need to be planted at the same time. And once you get it right one time, you can just do the same thing year after year. So there's
Mhm.
a lot of similarities. But yeah, my garden here is also a quite a mix of experiments, and I'm always trying to push boundaries. We can grow everything in Madeira. I mean, I do have a couple roses, they're blooming right now. I also picked some daffodils today. The Mecanopsis is flowering today. There's hibiscus open today. The cannas are in full bloom.
Goodness me. So yeah,
The
it's
dahlias down the road. I mean, it's
banana. Yeah.
they're all next to the banana. Delphinium with banana with, and my pansies are perennial. They bloom all year long, so it's not controlled, but I'm having a really good time.
good, good. And may I just ask, before we just wrap up our conversation, you've mentioned sweet pea several times, and that obviously made up your bread and butter of the farm before you actually decided to make the change to Farmer Bailey plugs. But are you growing sweet peas there?
I did not this year, but we have in the past couple of years. Back in December, we had a very strong windstorm while we were traveling, and it ripped through my nursery. And I'm mostly an orchid grower here. I have thousands of orchids, but
I can see them on the table behind you.
those are just my supermarket issue Phalaenopsis. But I'm mostly a lady slipper, mostly a Paphiopedilum guy. But after that storm, there was just so much cleanup to do that I never got around to sowing my sweet peas this year. But they actually are quite happy in the mild climate here. I can't wait to get back into them. But Yeah, always a favorite. They have such a reputation of being finicky and getting it wrong, and really people just try to treat them too good. And they want to treat them like a tomato. And you got to just get them sprouted and get them out there in the cold and toughen them up. And
Just
they're
going to
really
say, just going to say, people bring them up again. I do a sweet pea grow along every single year, and the biggest thing I say to people is slow and steady. You don't want to bring them on too quick, otherwise, what are you doing with the 18-inch tall sweet pea that you have in February that's now on your windowsill? Because it will collapse. It won't produce decent flowers. You want them short, stocky. Get them out. Let them sit there for a while, and yeah, stems 18 inches long are what we are looking for. We'd rather have a few of those than tiny little bunches of stumpy little flowers. For me, that doesn't work. So again, just through my personal choice.
yeah, sow them in October or November if you can, and get them in the ground before the daffodils start flowering. That's what I say.
Well, it's been absolutely wonderful talking to both of you. It's been a real pleasure finally actually talking to both of you. Just in case anybody's missed it, where can everybody find you online?
Our wholesale website is farmerbailey.com. You can go there to find lots of growing information that's available for free. We only ship within the United States, but anyone is welcome to take a look at what we're doing. The retail version of that site is gardenclubplants.com.
And then on Instagram, the business is at Farmer Bailey Plugs, and the retail brand is at Garden Club Plants on Instagram.
Wonderful. Thomas and Bailey, thank you so much for joining me on the Gardner Ben podcast today. It's been a real pleasure talking to you both and catching up with you.
Yeah, thank you, Ben.
Thank you, Ben, and best of luck with that book.
It's again slow and steady, just like the sweet peas. It's doing it in small bite-sized pieces. But thank you very much.
All the best. Thank you.
I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
I hope that you enjoyed the conversation that I had with Thomas and Bailey, and you head across their Instagram accounts or website and show them some love online. Next week on the Gardner Ben podcast, I have the pleasure in bringing you a conversation with husband and wife garden design and construction duo, Bryony and Jonathan, who are off to BBC Gardeners World Live on the 18th to the 21st of June to construct and share with you all their brand new garden design concept. Now then, 3 autistic people on one Zoom call. What could possibly go wrong? Well, I can guarantee that one person is going to completely disconnect, one person is going to overcompensate, and the other is going to try and please absolutely everybody. I'll leave you to decide. I thoroughly enjoyed my conversation, which was open and joyful, and I hope you join me next week when I get to share it with you all. The Gardner Ben podcast is brought to you proudly in association with Peterbilt's Roses, winner of 31 Chelsea Gold medals and creating timeless roses since 1968. Go online and shop at www.peterbillsroses.com and make sure that you're following along on Instagram and on TikTok. Until next week, happy gardening.